sou o Bernardo Brandão, falei um pouquinho mais cedo aí para todo mundo, sou líder de marketing aqui na RD e a gente está aqui recebendo diversos convidados, diversos palestrantes que vão estar hoje ao longo do dia com a gente. E hoje eu tenho uma convidada muito especial para a gente trocar uma ideia, bater um papo, que é a April Dunford. A April, ela é uma consultora especialista em posicionamento de produto. A gente vai falar um pouquinho agora sobre posicionamento de produto e que diferenças que ela está vendo entre o nosso mercado aqui e os mercados, né, mais maduros, mercados americano, canadense. E a gente vai trocar uma ideia um pouquinho em cima desse tema que acho que interessa muita gente, que é como posicionar produto nos dias de hoje, né? Então, a April, ela é consultora de posicionamento, empreendedora, ela é investidora anjo e conselheira, tem 25 anos de atuação como executiva, já trabalhou em mais de 7 startups de tecnologia que tiveram muito sucesso, grandes empresas também, já lançou dezenas de produtos na sua carreira e hoje trabalha com outras empresas, ajudando essas empresas a lançar produto, né? Então ela está muito envolvida no mundo B2B, empresas de tecnologia no mundo B2B. E a gente vai trocar uma ideia. Eu vou conduzir essa conversa em inglês, né? E aí a gente vai, ao longo do bate-papo aí, explorando alguns temas aqui que a gente tem para conversar com ela. So let me switch to English, April. Well, first of all, welcome to Florianópolis. Welcome to our Summit.
I'm so happy to be here. Olá, tudo bem?
Yeah, olá, tudo bem?
I won't torture you with any more of my attempt to speak Portuguese.
Okay, but you said it very well, so.
Thank you.
Well, April, it's your second time here, right?
It is. It is. The last time was 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And it was much smaller, RD Summit. I think it was 7,000 attendees,
Yep.
6,000 attendees. And I thought it was massive then.
Yeah, now we have grown up to 12,000 attendees in this edition, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy. But I love this conference, so I was happy when they asked me to come back. I was like, yes, finally I'm going back to Floripa.
And we're happy to have you here. Right? You're going to be the closing keynote today, right?
Today, yep.
So it's going to be a packed room, over 5,000 people in the room.
Big room. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So let's start with I think your passion, right? Product positioning, right?
Positioning is my thing. Yep.
Yeah. So let's start with your keynote, right? So what are the topics and the insights that you're planning to bring to the audience later today?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about positioning, and positioning is an interesting topic because it's not new. So we've been talking about positioning since the 80s, but it is, in my opinion, one of the most misunderstood concepts in marketing. And so I'm going to talk about how we sometimes get the definition of positioning wrong. I'm going to talk about how we should be thinking about it. I'm going to give some stories about products that I've worked on where we had bad positioning and then we switched to good positioning and what happened when we switched. And then I'm going to touch on a methodology for actually doing positioning that people can use to reposition their own products.
Okay, so let's talk about the definition of product positioning. Many people get it wrong, and I think many people that are watching us, we see a lot of entrepreneurs and mid-sized, small-sized companies. They have their own products, right? What should they target at? What should they understand as the right approach to product positioning?
Right. So the most common problem I see, particularly in smaller businesses, is they don't actually think about positioning at all. They just position in a kind of default automatic way. So they wake up in the morning and they say, you know what, I'm going to make a new product and it's better email, or it's a new CRM, or I'm going to be a marketing agency. And they start selling to customers and they put things in, they take things away, customers like things, they don't like things. At the same time, the market itself is shifting, and you fast forward a little bit and suddenly your email kind of looks like live chat. or your CRM looks a little bit like workplace collaboration, or your marketing agency is really kind of a digital agency and not a marketing agency, but you don't see it that way because you're inside and things have shifted and you don't notice. And so we need to actually put ourselves in the shoes of customers and think about what is the best way to position what we've got that makes how our offering is awesome obvious to the people we're trying to sell to.
Yeah, but and then at the same time, how can you make it not about yourself but about your customers, right?
Well, that's it. Like the only point of view that matters is your customers. You need to help your customers by giving them a frame of reference so that they can really easily understand what you do. Most of the time we don't think about that. We just, we use whatever default positioning we have in our mind. But if you take a step back and you really understand, who do customers compare my offering to? How are we different and better than those competitive alternatives? And who are the people I'm actually trying to speak to? So what is the best context for me to put this offering in for people to really understand what it's all about?
Do you think product positioning evolves depending on the stages when you're like launching a product? It's
Absolutely.
a new product, maybe in a new category you're trying to create, versus products that already exist and you're doing feature enhancement. How does that evolve across time?
Absolutely. So when you have something brand new in the market, it really depends on how mature your market is. So if you're launching something, let's say you decide you're going to do email. Like you're going to have to compete with Gmail. There's no way around that. Gmail's there, they're the leader. How are you? And so you're not going to be able to get away with not describing how you're different than Gmail. Then you'll have to really understand what kind of customer should pick us and not Gmail. So you need to be really clear on that. If you're launching something that's completely new in a market that's totally unformed, where there's no existing market leader, you're going to have to teach the market and your customers, why does that market even deserve to exist? If there's no features there, or there's no products there already, then it's usually because the market doesn't even know they have a problem. So you will start by marketing the problem, then helping your customers understand why they need a solution to that problem, then helping them understand why your product is the best possible solution to that problem. So it's actually a lot harder if the market's not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Internally, right? Where do you think product positioning resides in an organization? Is it like a marketing thing, a product thing? Should they be working together? How do you see that?
So I get asked this question a lot, particularly by the product team, because the product team feels strongly that they should own positioning. But here's the terrible answer. Everybody's got to own it. A shift in positioning is really like a shift in business strategy, and you don't get away with that unless every single group is on board. So in the work I do as a consultant, I have the CEO and the founders in the room, I have the head of sales, I have the head of marketing, I have head of product, I have customer success. Everybody's got to be in agreement about the positioning because it literally impacts every department. It's not just about marketing.
Okay, we're seeing now the role of product marketing emerging in Brazil, right? Like especially for tech companies, B2B
product marketing
companies.
is hot now.
It is, and
I like that. I've been doing product marketing forever, but now it's cool.
We're lacking, people with the right profile, right? So if you want to work in building product positioning, what do you think are the key skills that you need to acquire?
Well, I'll tell you, I started in product marketing. My first job ever at a tech company was in product marketing, and I have a degree in systems design engineering, which has nothing to do with marketing at all. And the thing that I found to be the most helpful for me is I spent the first 2 months of my job interviewing customers about what was their problem? Why did they decide they needed a new solution to this problem? When they went looking for us, who else did they look at? Why did they decide to pick our product versus any other product? And then once they started using our product, what did they find that was surprising about it? I did 50 interviews like that. At the end of 50, I was the smartest person in the room.
Okay.
So I think product marketing is really about deeply understanding the customer and how and why the customer buys. If you can get your head around that, you're going to be excellent at product marketing.
And it's not something easy to do, right?
No, it's not easy to do. It's time consuming. And I've worked at companies where they didn't want me to talk to customers and I had to fight to do it. But if you want to be good at product marketing, you're going to have to find a way.
Do you think that because of that process, do you really think that companies are more and more customer-oriented, customer-obsessed? Or do you think this is still a slide in a presentation, easier said than done?
Most of the time, it's a slide in a presentation. Here's what I think. I think when you're small, it's easy to be customer obsessed because everybody on the team interacts with customers. It's when you get big that it gets more difficult because there starts to be, there's a sales team, there's a marketing team, there's a product team, and only a few people have it in their everyday job description to regularly work with customers. And so it's harder to be customer obsessed the bigger you get and the more scale you have. When I worked at IBM, I was told I was not allowed to talk to customers because I would mess up a deal.
They were more worried about closing that deal as opposed to understanding their needs, right?
That's right. So I had to fight to get into sales pitches so that I could hear what customers had to say. And so I spent a lot of time making friends with people in the sales team and making sure that they weren't afraid to let me sit in and quietly listen to conversations with customers. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to be good at my job.
Okay. You've worked at big companies, right? Big tech companies and startups.
Yeah.
Right? So totally different environments.
So different.
Did you move from the big companies to the startups? Did you do that move?
Yeah, I did all the moves. So I started with a really small company, and then we got acquired by a big company. And then, after you get acquired, you have to stick around for a couple of years. So I stuck around for a couple of years. I went back to another startup. I stayed there for a year and a half, and then we got acquired by another big company. I did that 7 times in a row.
7 times?
7 times in a row. So after the 7th one, I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this. And then that's when I switched to consulting. So most of the time when I was in a big company, it wasn't really my choice. We got acquired and I was there. I liked working at big companies. And I'll tell you, I learned an awful lot about how to do things at scale and how would you do things when you have lots of budget and lots of people and you have a very strong position in a market. But for me, I always felt like I was better suited to a startup. So that's why I kept leaving the big ones and going back to the small ones. But the successful small companies, unfortunately, don't stay small for long.
Well, you've seen different, realities, right? So what are the most common pitfalls companies do with product positioning that you see in the market? Yeah,
so as I said before, number one problem is they just don't do it at all. So they just ignore it and they don't think about changing it until they're obviously in pain. Then usually what happens is they decide they want to work on positioning, but the most common problem when they are thinking about it is they don't understand the actual competitors they compete against. Meaning, a lot of companies that I work with, I'll ask them, well, who's your competitor? And they'll say, we compete with all these tiny little startups in the valley, and they'll list them all, Silicon Valley, small companies, raise some money. But then when you go talk to the customers and you say, look, if this product didn't exist, what would you use? A lot of times the customer will say, I'd use a spreadsheet, or I'd hire an intern to do it.
Or I do nothing.
Or I do nothing because I don't even know I have that problem. So if you think your competition is a little startup in the valley, you might say, my difference against them is ease of use, and that's what I'm going to highlight in my messaging and my positioning. But then your actual competition is a spreadsheet or an intern. You will never beat the intern on ease of use. Mm-hmm. The intern wins on ease of use. But if you're trying to compete against the intern, you should actually be positioning around completely different things. The intern makes mistakes. The intern has to do work over again. The intern quits on you and takes all their information with you, and you have to train somebody new. You don't have to do that with software most of the time.
Okay. We're heading towards the end of the year, right? We're approaching 2020. What do you think are like the trends that you're seeing in the market, that you see, companies looking in terms of, technologies or products or launches for next year?
So I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about marketing tactics and trends because my whole focus is really on strategy.
Okay.
But I will say there are a couple of things that I see. So one that I think is really interesting because it's an example of things we used to do and now it's cool again is people talking about account-based marketing. So account-based marketing is, 20 years ago when I was running a marketing team, that was literally all we were doing. We had an enterprise product and we were doing account-based marketing. The difference is now, the way you can do it is so much more data-driven. There's so many more interesting ways for you to figure out who should be on your target account list. And then there's lots of different channels that you can actually go after a target account and surround a target account. So I think that's really interesting. And then video just continues to be, I think we've only just started to see what we can do with video, particularly when you're talking about selling to enterprises. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to continue to see lots of that.
Yeah. And you're seeing companies like Zoom that are making inroads in that,
Amazing.
In those markets, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So, we're heading towards our conversation here. What do you think about the energy you're seeing, in today's event?
Well, the opening this morning was great. It was like it's a marketing conference, but that looks like a rock concert. And the band is playing, and the dry ice is going, and the lights are like, whoa, this is amazing. So the energy is pretty high.
I think it's like a mix of a festival with
it's like
with a corporate
festival.
event and a lot of energy involved, right?
Yeah, it's not like a corporate event. It's a pretty fun thing for a corporate event. No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And just the size of the crowd. There's something about having that many people, and it's a group of marketers. That's pretty amazing, the size of it, the scale.
Yeah, and we're really happy to have you here. Looking forward your closing keynote today.
I'm really excited.
Right, and I hope you have a great time here at Florianopolis and in Brazil.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me.